Hey everybody, 5-Minute Art School. Today we're going to talk about diagramming a sphere. Why is that important? Because planar thinking is essential to accurate portrayal of light, shadow, essentially form. And a sphere is a great representation of how the light is falling on my face right now. Obviously it's a diffused light, but if we had a spotlight, you'd be able to see a little bit more clearly the rotation. Right now you're just seeing kind of a highlight and then a shadow, which is great. It's important to break down clearly what is light and what is shadow. And one of the beginner mistakes that pretty much everybody makes is to infuse too much interest and light back into the shadow when it should be kept mostly flat with maybe some reflected light. That's a topic for a different day, but I want to show you today how the sphere actually works. And it's going to be a little bit more left brain logic. We're going to use some numbers today, but I think you're going to see, especially towards the end, how this understanding can help you very quickly just like indicate a form really well. And I'm going to point you in the direction of some master drawings, and Raphael especially does this really well. Anyway, we're going to dive in. So in this first illustration, what you're going to see is our sphere. And what do these numbers mean? It means as the light is coming down here, there's our light source, hitting the very top. We're looking at the sphere from the side. So we don't see the highlight, but in the top 2/3 spatially, we're losing 50% of the overall light. Now that means going from the light to the shadow, that's 100% of our light budget, basically. And I've indicated that here in a little bit more abstracted form, so you can see kind of what we mean just in the cutout. So in this lower third here, right, we have 1/3 left of the overall 3/3. We're losing the last 50%. So what that means is this is mostly light up here in the top 2/3. But then as it gets down towards this bottom core shadow, what happens is what we call the exponential degradation of light. Exponential means it happens more and more rapidly. Now think about that. You have this light here. It's still, when we're coming in these different planes, if we were to think of this sphere as broken up into individual planes, the angle of this plane is still closely resembling this plane. But when we get down here, it's almost at a right angle to this plane. And if you notice, the core shadow happens at a right angle to the light source all the time. That's the way it works. So whenever you find a core shadow, you can automatically find your light source. And if you find your light source, you can find your core shadow. So these planes down here are closer, planarly thinking, to the core shadow. Does that make sense? So what happens is mostly light, oh, getting darker, darkest, oh, just like boom, towards the end. And I hope that is kind of making sense, because really that's the entire concept. We can of course dig deeper here, and I want to show you a crucial concept called the last 2%. That's what I call it. That's not an official term. Meaning the last 2% right before the core shadow is where most of the form actually happens. And we're not going to discuss why that is right now, just for sake of time. But just know that as you get close to that core shadow, you need that the last bit of the light shadow to blend into that core. And how long it takes to do that, if it's a soft, round form, then obviously it's going to take longer, right? If it's a hard right angle, think of a cube. If we diagram a cube, we're going to see that light change very quickly, right? If our light source is up here, so this is all light, and then all of a sudden it goes around that corner, it's going to be very abrupt, right? Versus some round form, it's going to take a while. It's going to be soft. And this core shadow, the last 2%, is going to be stretched out. The light and dark, it still has to, it's the same amount of light to dark, but when the form is round, it takes longer, right? The shadows are stretched over the surface, whereas when it turns an abrupt corner on a sharper form, then naturally it's going to just break. I want to bring this up because Friday, is when I'm going to be demonstrating this on the scarab beetle painting that we did last week. And we'll be able to discuss it a little bit more in depth. So I hope you join me on Friday. That will be an hour-long demo. I'll be taking questions and answers periodically throughout that. It will again start at noon and go till about 1 Mountain Time. Hope this was helpful. If you want more insight or you have questions, please leave a comment in the comment in the comment section, please. Okay. Have a great day. See ya.